The objectives for today are really around e-commerce, but specifically redefining e-commerce in this new world. We're all small business owners challenged with trying to adapt with new consumer behaviors. And we're going to share some thoughts and perspectives on some things that folks are doing out there to kind of rethink and redefine their e-commerce approach. And hopefully we'll give you some examples that are relevant to your own small businesses. That includes a second objective around rethinking web design in order for that to be sort of on target and as successful as intended. We also will talk a little bit about SEO, search engine optimization tactics, so that you can really understand how you can do some pretty small things, but gain some significant increases in organic tractions and your search rankings. So Taylor, if you go to the next slide, I've already introduced myself. My role today is really as moderator. I'll get us through the topics and hopefully into the questions. SCORE Rhode Island is an organization that has been helping Rhode Island small businesses for well over 50 years. And the majority of what we have done over that entire period is offer free one-on-one mentoring to small businesses all across Rhode Island and South Coast Massachusetts. In addition to my role as the SCORE co-chair, I also am a small business owner. I do business growth and business strategy consulting, and so have great empathy for folks out there starting and running their own small businesses. My organization, Breakthrough Growth, as well as my volunteer work with SCORE, is really focused on strengthening our small business community. And I'm thrilled that I'm joined by David and Taylor today because they really bring a tremendous amount of experience to this topic. So with that, I'll pass it off to Taylor.
Hey everyone, my name's Taylor. I am a marketing and campaign coordinator for KSA Marketing. KSA Marketing is a marketing agency in Warwick, Rhode Island. We have a wide range of clients from well-known global brands to state agencies to local businesses. And I do a little bit of everything, including market research, competitor analyses, audience profiles, consumer behavior trends and research, user experience design for websites, brand storytelling, social media management, list goes on. I have a background in education, so I love being able to bring knowledge to those who need it. And I'm really happy to be a part of this webinar today. In my free time, I like data visualizations. I like taking data sets that I find online and turning them into visualizations where you can interact with them and find new trends and insights into the data. So that leads to some pretty fun things. If you want to contact me after this webinar, you can reach me at my email, taylor@teamksa.com. I'm happy to chat with you and answer any questions you might have. And also with us today is David.
So David Bradley here. Happy to be working with both Rochelle and Taylor again. I'm an advisor to KSA Marketing, and I volunteer with SCORE Rhode Island. So I work with both of them pretty closely, and I've been involved with both organizations for a couple of years now. My background is in marketing strategy, and I've published 2 books on that, and that's where I've spent most of my professional career. And I'm in the education side a bit because a lot of what I do is training oriented and the coaching consulting side. And I also teach at a college, so I get a couple of different perspectives from that as well. So I'm excited to get into what we have here today. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to start with the essentials of e-commerce and kind of break down what this presentation is going to cover. It's going to cover 3 main areas. And those 3 main areas are what platforms there are to sell on, how do you make it easy for your customer to purchase your product, and then how do you meet market demand. So at the core is the platform to sell on. It could be your own platform, like on your website, or another platform that enables you to sell on their marketplace, like eBay or Amazon. Then it's important for you to make it easy for your customer by having a clear, clean, and simple experience to avoid losing sales. Customers can become confused about how to find products. They can be uncertain about how to navigate web pages or what your product can deliver, or unconvinced of the value that you can provide. And then lastly, if you've done those two steps, the next thing you have to do is find your audience on the internet. This can be through SEO tactics, social media tactics. Today, we're really going to focus on the SEO side of things and how you can make some small tweaks in order to increase your rankings on search engines. So let's pause for a minute. I know that not everyone here was part of the last webinar that we did. The last webinar we did kind of laid the foundation for this. And one of the things we talked about was how to adapt your product in the time of COVID-19, how to change your product if you're more of an experiential business, how to make it so that you can deliver your product to your customer now that they're at home, or how to repackage products that you sell in store to be able to be sold on the internet. So I just want to recap that real quick for those of you that were not part of the last webinar. So the first thing you can do is create kits or themed boxes to address experiences that your target audience is missing out on. For instance, graduations aren't really happening. It's more of a digital thing now. Birthday parties, you know, they've been pretty distanced. So think about those experiences that your customer is missing out on, going on, you know, dates with their significant other. How can you create themed boxes or kits to meet that demand? If you have an experiential business like yoga, or if you teach dance classes, that's something that can become online classes. And having an e-commerce platform to be able to sign up for those online classes would be helpful for your website. And lastly, gyms can leverage personal training for Zoom workouts and personal trainer one-on-one meetings, dietary meetings, and those can be also scheduled through a website platform. So setting up an e-commerce platform is really the most important step to being able to get the conversion. So what platforms do we have to sell on? How do you make your product available? There's a few different kinds of e-commerce platforms, and everyone is going to have to decide which e-commerce platform is best for their business, or which combination of platforms is best for their business. So the first one we're going to talk about are company-owned platforms. And this is probably the one that, as just general information, everyone should have a website, and every business should have a website, and every business should have the ability to convert a customer on their website. So these company-owned platforms are essentially e-commerce platforms that you can integrate into your website. WooCommerce, Squarespace, Shopify. Squarespace and Shopify are probably the two most well-known ones. There's also 3D Cart and BigCommerce. So let's talk about the pros and cons of these. The pros are that you are totally in control of the platform. You can set limits on products, decide who you are selling to, who your business is advertising to, and where it's advertising. They're company owned. So usually what that means is it's a subscription-based service. There aren't that many like hidden fees or really any at all. There's also a lot of flexibility with company-owned platforms. They appear as part of your site. They're fully integrated. So your branding is most prominent. And that doesn't always happen on the next type of platform, which we're going to talk about, is marketplace platforms. Company-owned platforms allow it to seem like a truly owned digital property, a truly owned part of your website. You also have a lot of versatility in deciding what channels you advertise on. If you have an Instagram shop, you can't really drive customers to that Instagram shop from Google Ads. you really are locked into marketing on Instagram. But if you have that e-commerce platform on your website, you decide where you want to go. Do you want to advertise on Instagram, on search, on Facebook? You know, the options are limitless. There are some cons though, and the cons are that there is some development required for company-owned platforms, which means that you might need to put in some time to learn a new system. Like anything else, there will be a little bit of a learning curve. But this is really something that a lot of businesses will benefit from. The second type of platform are marketplace platforms. This is Etsy, eBay, House, which is really great for house construction or interior design, Grubhub, and Mobile Market, which is specific to Rhode Island, I believe. These are some marketplace platforms where it's kind of like a digital bazaar or like a convention. Imagine like a giant convention center. Everybody's got a table and your business has a table there. And so if you are on Etsy or eBay, the idea is that their branding is most prominent on the site, and you have your own page. And the same thing with these other ones. And just a quick note here, these are not necessarily subscription-based. They're usually commission-based. And I just want to talk about Grubhub for a second. A lot of restaurants sometimes choose to use Grubhub because they don't necessarily know about other options, or it's just that Grubhub has a really high brand awareness or name recognition. But as far as platforms for restaurants go, Grubhub actually has some pretty high commissions. They charge 20% for marketing commissions and a 10% delivery commission. And then there's usually a delivery tip on top of that, but it can make a $44 order into a $30 order. And I've seen some people, someone I know sent me an order that they had on Grubhub. Their restaurant subscribes to Grubhub and uses it as a platform. And they went from 46 orders of $1,000, and after all the fees, they ended up with $376 of that. So there are other options out there besides Grubhub. I would highly suggest that if you are a restaurant looking to get onto the digital platform, research the competitors. So for marketplace platforms, the pros of marketplace platforms are that they have a built-in audience. Everyone knows what Etsy is or what eBay is. The user interface for each brand on the marketplace platform is exactly the same. So if you're on Etsy and you go to Johnny's jewelry store, the add to cart button and the product description and everything else is going to be laid out exactly the same as like Sylvia's scarf store. The other benefit is that setup is easy. Marketplace platforms, they make money off of commissions. So the more businesses they have on there, the more products those businesses have, the more money they make. And so they make it really, really easy to onboard new vendors and new products. There are drawbacks though, which is first off, they take a percentage of sales as a means of purchase. And this might mean that sales on your marketplace platform eat into your profit a little bit, or you have to sell your products at a higher price point to account for the percent commission. And that might mean that you get less customer conversions. The second big drawback is that it's really hard to differentiate yourself as a seller on the platform. You get a logo, you get an about section, but you really aren't the reason people are going to the particular platform. For instance, people go to Etsy because they're looking for craft and art products. They're not going because of specific vendors on Etsy, usually. So there's little brand identity involved and little ability to build brand relationships there. And then there's social media platforms. Social market platforms like Instagram, Facebook, both have marketplaces. These are really should be thought of as an extension of your website platform or of the platform that you choose. The pros of this are that you have a built-in audience like a marketplace platform like Etsy or eBay, but it's your own built-in audience. Users can follow you on Instagram, on Facebook page. They build brand affinity through your posts and your interactions with them, and you can expand your reach into their networks by having them share content. Another big plus is that so many people are already on social media that you're bringing your store to where they are. And lastly, the fact that social media platforms are already a really great advertising tool is another huge pro. Now you have this option to build an advertising campaign in the same place that your store location is. And it's a really effective tool. There are some downsides though. The first is that there are very different audiences across different social media platforms. So in order to choose the right one, you have to first understand who your audience is, and then research the audiences of different social media platforms. And this is something we talked a little bit about last week. And if you missed it, it's worth checking out. I would just, reach out and get the link for that webinar 1, because there's some good information in there about target audiences. Another drawback to using Instagram specifically is there is an approvals process, and it doesn't take too long. It can be a couple hours or it can be up to 2 weeks. And they have guidelines on what can be sold and what can't be sold. And they have a commission of 5%, which isn't the highest commission that's out there. So it's not too bad. These work better though, like I said, as extensions. You should still really have a central hub of a website e-commerce platform. Your social shop allows you to meet your users where they are without having them navigate away from the social media app that they're using. It's more about convenience for your user. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about Google platforms. A lot of people want to know how to sell on Google. So when you search in Google and the products come up, a lot of people want to know how to do that. And the thing is that that's not necessarily a platform, an e-commerce platform. It's more of an advertising tool. And YouTube is the same way. YouTube is a Google property. And so they're also kind of more of a social platform. So they're a bit in between this one and the last social marketplace platforms. So there's a way to sell on YouTube with something called TrueView for shopping. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to add in ad extensions to your YouTube ads so that they can click on the product in the video. And then they are able to make the purchase right there without navigating away from the YouTube website or the YouTube video that they're on. In order to do this, you have to have a Google Merchant Center account set up. And the Google Merchant Center, this allows you to put in information about your product. And once you get your information in there about the product, you can't just then put that on, it doesn't just appear on Google. You then need to make a Google Ads account and make a shopping campaign. And then you can serve those ads on the shopping platform. And you can extend them to the video platform as well. So this is really more of an advertising tool than it is a platform for e-commerce. So when thinking about which platform to use, there's a lot that goes into the consideration of it. You have to consider the appeal level of your product, if your target audience matches the marketplace platform that you're considering, if your brand story is important to the sale, if education is necessary for nurturing leads. There's really not a whole lot of opportunity to nurture leads on marketplace platforms. My very general recommendation again is that businesses should have a website, and that website should be able to convert your customer. It's your most powerful tool, and it allows you to choose where your audience comes from, which is incredibly important. If you, for instance, are running an Instagram ad campaign and you have a relative amount of success, and then all of a sudden your target audience stops responding to the ads, you can switch your channel to paid search instead. And if you only have an Instagram shop, though, you can't really do that. You're on Instagram. That's why websites should be your core e-commerce platform, and then there's the opportunity for these other extensions. So lastly, for this e-commerce section, some things to keep in mind. Ensure you have a streamlined process for where your order notifications will be sent and that they don't get sent to spam. You want to ensure you have a process in place for gathering and fulfilling orders in order to avoid missed orders or duplicated orders. Depending on the platform you select, it may already be built in, but you still want to double check that once it goes live and do a couple tests before it goes live. You also need to manage your inventory smartly, especially if e-commerce is not your only sales channels. Update the backend when items are out of stock or no longer available in order to avoid customers from making a purchase and then having to reach out and saying, oh, this actually can't be fulfilled, or it's going to take a little bit longer because we're out of stock right now. You want to make sure that all the products are up to date for that. You also want to refresh your customer interest by adding new items or even different packaging formats. You know, you might have to do like bigger bags or bottle sizes in order to keep customers coming back. And also e-commerce doesn't necessarily have to be a year-round initiative. We at KSA have some clients like Shallow Brothers Bakery in Providence, and they only turn on their online store around the holidays, and lots of people from out of state are looking to order their cookies as gifts. So think about those peak times of year that you have a lot of sales, and think about turning on your e-commerce platform then and using it now to get through this situation that we're in with COVID-19. So next week, we're going to be covering building a sales funnel in greater detail, but two things to keep in mind are to always nurture customers to become engaged with you. Look to sales confirmation emails as a way to allow them to follow you on social or opt into newsletters. Just because they've bought something doesn't mean that you can't then you know, build some brand loyalty there and turn them into turn them into brand ambassadors. So ensure you have a good CRM also to track customer contact information and to nurture those leads.
So Taylor,
yes,
since we have a significant number of questions accumulating, I thought it might be good just to pause for a sec if we could before we go into ease of buying. Since
sure.
I've been looking at those questions, maybe I'll take a stab and then ask you and or David to augment. One of the first questions really from Catherine, actually she had a few, were really about the B2C platform from Salesforce.com. And I liken that to the first category that Taylor mentioned. The difference is that websites like Shopify and BigCommerce really originated as e-commerce platforms. And of course, Salesforce.com did not. But what they're doing is extending their quite extensive platform that was really built around the whole sales pipeline and customer relationship management. They're extending that into e-commerce and linking it, right? So that if you have the e-commerce platform, your website that's built on top of the B2C product that they sell, there's an opportunity to stitch together a lot of different things that Salesforce.com has to offer. One of which was something Taylor just mentioned, a customer relationship management platform. So again, I put that sort of in the category of those company-owned or third-party platforms where it is your website, but it's built on top of a platform that's really amenable to e-commerce. In addition, there's really some questions about how to really get up to speed on some of this stuff. And by the way, David and Taylor, keep that question about Salesforce.com in mind if you have any other thoughts. And I know that many that are attending webinars like this have varying degrees of sophistication with e-commerce. And as Taylor mentioned, a very large number of clients within SCORE right now have no ability really to sell services or goods because the brick and mortar has been shut down. So they really have thought about how they stand up any kind of e-commerce capability, and many will keep that as a way of augmenting what they hope to continue to do online. I think some of the best tools for how to, learn on some of this stuff, first of all, is through attending webinars. Secondly, work with a mentor. Work with a mentor who can guide you through the specific questions that you will have, because all businesses are different. Products are different, the services are different, the value proposition is different. And as you can see from the information that Taylor's already provided, there are a lot of different options. And I think using a mentor to help guide you away from the rocks, so to speak, is just a smart idea. And I think since particularly SCORE has free mentoring service and we work with many subject matter experts, I think it's just a smart path to take. There are some good books out there. David Bradley has written a couple on marketing, and I think they're very practical and easy to follow. I think Google does a pretty nice job also of providing some 101 things on important concepts like search engine optimization. Taylor's going to get into that, but understanding what you need to do to be found, what you need to do to capture the customer and then keep the customer engaged. There's a lot of good free information available. And I think there are also a number of YouTubes. I'm not a huge fan because I would say there's 70% garbage and 30% that's really good. So again, if you need some help navigating through any of that, there's help out there for you. So one other question we got was really how folks should think about using Pinterest at all as part of their e-commerce strategy, or augmenting Pinterest as part of this. So I'll pass that back to Taylor and to David, and certainly feel free to comment on anything else I've said.
Sure. David, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So, Pinterest is an option for you to make sales through. I think it just goes back to your decision criteria of, does this make sense for us or not? And first and foremost, it's about, is your audience actually there on the platform? And that needs to be a significant enough criteria that there's enough people in your market that are actually going to be there already, because you don't want to have to rely on bringing people to Pinterest. That's too much of a hurdle for you. But if they're already there, that's a good box to check. And then it comes down to, where's my energy best placed? So you need to evaluate the size of your market on Pinterest versus Instagram, eBay, Etsy, whatever the platforms are you're considering, and start trying to hone in on which one is going to provide you with the best kind of process. And the best process has a lot of factors involved, but I think it goes into the part Taylor is going to be talking about ease of buying. Because just like if you're trying to get people onto Pinterest or whatever platform, if they're not already there, that's a lot of friction. So if you can figure out for your product, for your audience, what creates the simplest path to making a sale, I think that's really the right way to break it down. Because it is definitely possible on Pinterest. You just have to decide, is it best fit for you and in your market?
One other question, Taylor, maybe this one's for you since you mentioned TrueView. Do you need to use Google AdWords in order to use TrueView? I thought that was, in fact, yes, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So the way it works is that the Google Merchant Center really serves as a place for you to upload your product so that all your product information is in there. Then you need to use the Google Ads campaign manager. And what you would do is you would select a video campaign, and that would be one of the ad extensions that you can serve through TrueView, I believe. So, and then same thing for the shopping. You would go and make the shopping ads as well. And just a note on Salesforce. Salesforce, as far as a platform, can be kind of costly. It can be a really significant investment to to get up and running. So if you're a larger company, that might work, but if you're a smaller business, you may want to look at a more cost-effective method. And as far as learning about these different marketplace platforms, the best thing, oh, sorry, not marketplace, the company-owned platforms. The best thing to do is really just to research them. You know, do some searches on drawbacks to them. Do some searches on, you know, which one's the best. You'll get some articles on comparisons, things like that. So do the background research, see what it looks like setting it up before you commit to one specifically, and find out that it's not for you.
I have one more question before we move to the next section, and that I'll tackle hopefully quickly, but certainly add David or Taylor. And it's about permits and licensing that are required to sell locally, nationally, or internationally. And the short answer is it depends. You know, the nature of the business, the nature of the products and services really doesn't have an impact on licensing. And the Department of Business Regulation within the state of Rhode Island, and there's similar organizations at a state level in Massachusetts, really are the best authoritative source for figuring out where, if at all, you may need a license. But my suggestion is, if there's a narrow geography, sources like the Department of Business Regulations are a first go-to area. In terms of any additional licensing permits, again, since it depends based on the nature of the underlying business, I would again suggest you go on to score.ri.org. Actually, it's the other way around, ri.score.org. Click a mentor. Certainly you can request a conversation with me, with Rochelle, and we can talk through not only where your business is today, but where you intend to expand and try to lay out a path for what specific permits and licensing might be required. So I'll pass it back to you, Taylor.
All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is ease of buying. So how do you help your customer move through the buying process as easily and as quickly as possible? And what this really comes down to is website design. It doesn't just help to have an e-commerce feature on your website. That's not going to make people convert. Your entire website is essentially your e-commerce platform, and it should be intelligently designed to move that target audience through the sales process in a seamless fashion. Your website design really needs to be purposeful. Every feature and element should add to the experience for the user. It should also be intuitive. You don't want to make your user have to think about how to navigate through your web page or where to find what they're looking for. That's a quick way to increase your bounce rate. And bounce rate is the number of people who come to your web page and then leave after only viewing one page. Your content and messaging should be clear. There should be no confusion about what you are trying to communicate to your audience. And in order to achieve this, there's a type of website design, really like the main type of website design. And this is something that everyone should have in mind, and it's called user experience design. So what is user experience design or UX design? This is the process of, I wrote this definition for user experience design. It's the process of anticipating user behavior to inform the usability, usefulness, and desirability provided in the interaction with a brand and its product. So basically this means that you should design your website with the user's experience in mind. You don't have to be a website developer or coder to understand the concepts of UX design. And honestly, website developers usually aren't trained in the areas of UX design. It's kind of its own rapidly growing field. And there's a lot of experimentation and user testing that goes into it. But like anything else, there are these core elements of UX design that we can incorporate into our websites that doesn't involve breaking the bank on research and development and testing. It's just about knowing some key concepts. And the first step to an informed user experience design is understanding exactly what your user's experience is with your brand, and that involves defining their customer journey. So what is your customer's journey from finding out about your brand all the way to purchase of the product? So a customer journey map is the best way to really get down on paper how your customers find you and what makes them convert. You can't create a user experience design if you don't have a solid understanding of this first. And I could give you some basic guidelines like what button colors should be avoided and things like that, and I will, but nothing meaningful can really be created without first putting down on paper what your customer's journey is. So it starts with brand discovery. Think about how your customer finds your brand, and then consider the touch points. A touch point is where your customer makes contact with your brand in a meaningful way. These are different for every brand and every industry, but these touch points are a way of creating the basis for your customer journey map. And then you want to think about their thoughts and their feelings. At every touch point in the journey, what does that look like for your customer? And you can draw on your knowledge, your staff's knowledge, based on interactions with your customer. You can reach out to customers that you've built relationships with and ask them about their particular thoughts and feelings at different touch points. And that will be really helpful in building this map. And then lastly, consider drivers and barriers. What makes someone want to buy your product and interact with your brand at each touch point? Those are your drivers. And what might stand in your customer's way to dissuade them from continuing their journey? And these are your barriers. And understanding your drivers and barriers at each touch point allows you to intuit and address customer hesitation at the most important points in order to allay their fears and keep them engaged. So
if I could interject something here, Taylor, because I've talked about this with a number of small business clients, and one of the things that I suggest, and I'd love your and David's perspective on this, is sometimes it's hard to step into the shoes of the customer. It's like kind of getting outside of yourself. And one suggestion that I have made is go out and just explore the websites of some of the companies that you would buy products from. They can be competitors, they can be kind of close to what you're doing, or they could be maybe in a different industry, but the way you interact with them was compelling and memorable to you. I think those exercises are important because it allows us, even as small business owners, to think a little bit differently and intersect and kind of experience some things that we otherwise might not be able to do. So this whole thing about a customer journey is we're all customers too, right? So think about what's compelling to us or not, and it'll help you map that out.
Yeah, and thinking about a purchase that you made recently online and how you got there can be really enlightening as well. I've done that a couple times. Every time I go to a website and I make a purchase, I always kind of go back and say, how did I even find this brand? And then I kind of trace my own customer journey out again, and it's really good practice to be able to do it for yourself. This is an example of a possible customer journey map, and I used Fellini's Pizzeria because that is my go-to pizza place in Providence. They have delicious barbecue chicken pizza. So I'm going to walk you through the different steps here and what kind of each aspect of each step involves. So in the pre-awareness phase, this is before your customer knows about your brand. So what is their behavior? They're searching for food options in Rhode Island. What's driving them to search for food options in Rhode Island? Maybe they're back to work because of the PPP loan. Maybe, businesses started opening again this weekend, so maybe they're back at work because of that. And they're looking for a much needed break from being stuck at home and cooking every night. Some barriers that might stop them from ordering from Fellini's is that they may be very unfamiliar with Fellini's. They don't know the brand, and they may have established go-to pizza option locations. In this phase, the customer is feeling tired and maybe a little excited about the prospect of takeout and not having to cook. And they're thinking that they want the experience to be an enjoyable one and an easy one. Then they discover Fellini's Pizza, maybe through Google My Business page that's set up, or their website. And this is the awareness phase. So once a customer discovers Fellini's Pizza or a brand, they begin researching it. The research phase of a customer journey has extended a lot more now that we've become more familiar with search engines, and we've been using them a lot more. So this is a longer phase, and it's a really important phase. They begin researching the restaurant menu, reviews, prices. And so some drivers might be that Fellini's reviews are really positive and the food looks good, but some barriers might be that they have to visit multiple sites to gather necessary information for conversion. And this really highlights the importance of having one central location of a website to be able to provide reviews, the restaurant menu, and an ordering option. In order to do this for Fellini's, I had to go to 3 different sites to see customer reviews on Yelp, and then look at the menu on all menus. And then eventually I found their Grubhub, and I was able to think about placing an order there. The action phase is making a purchase. So Google My Business phone number, they can do it right from their phone. Customer service is available and friendly. And then some barriers, they can't necessarily order online, or they're unsure of some social distancing, which is really important in the time of COVID-19. So lastly, the retention aspect is really important. You want them to leave a review. The more reviews you have on Google My Business, the higher your ranking can go on overall organic search. And so sending an email follow-up is a really good way to remind people that this is an action that really helps the business. And it really prompts them to do it, because some of the barriers are that, the consumer may not understand the value of the action, and they might forget to take that desired action. So this is something that we're actually going to make available to everyone at this webinar as well. A blank version of this for you to fill out your own customer journey map, and that'll be available to you after the webinar. So knowledge is really broken down into 2 main areas. Customer really wants to know who you are as a brand, so what your brand identity is, and what value you can add to their experience. And these are the 2 main things you need to think about when you go into planning your web page. This is a site page content map. And basically what this is I've color coded it so that red is the brand identity, blue is the value added, and green is the conversion point, and gray is the navigation. Depending on, this is going to be different for every brand. This one I built specifically for Fellini's. Every website, though, at this point in time should have this essential COVID-19 business information right at the top there for your customer. And then the rest of this content is informed based on the customer journey map. And what this does is it allows you to plan out what content you're going to put on your website and how to move your consumer, your user, through to converting to a customer. It starts with this call to action: put down the pan, pick up the phone number. Then you've got this call now to place your order, a 2 to 3 sentence for a bio. Anything longer than 2 to 3 sentences for a bio at this point on the home page would create a friction point. And a friction point is any place that inhibits a user's ability to access the information that they need. So if you have a paragraph there, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either the user is going to skip over the section and you're going to miss out on an important touch point to introduce your brand, or they're going to read it and they're going to become frustrated because there's too much information that they don't necessarily need at that moment. So make sure that this is a short little clip. You can do a longer one on the About page. Menu preview, and then Fellini's reviews. And reviews really come in 2 forms. They can either be customer reviews or expert reviews. We've got some design elements to consider. For the sake of time, we're running a little bit close to the end here. I'm going to skip over these design elements. They're mostly about size, position, color, shape. And we're going to talk about making your site mobile friendly. making your site mobile friendly is incredibly important because 72% of mobile users said that website accessibility on a mobile phone was important to them on a recent survey put out by Google. But only 26% of small businesses currently have a mobile friendly website. So to meet your customer where they are on the device they are is incredibly important. And as more people turn to their cell phones in their daily lives, because either it's their preferred method of accessing the internet or the only one that they have, you really need to be there in order to meet them. So expand your access to your customer for your business, increase your brand recognition by being able to meet them on the phone when they're out as opposed to being at home with their computer, and then match their expectations. If they need to navigate to you and they're not at home, they need to be able to find you on their phone. So make sure that your website is mobile friendly. And these are just some quick tips for making your website mobile friendly. The display, make sure you display important information at the top. Remove flash videos. They don't really work well on phones. Information needs to be easy to read, and paragraphs aren't really great on a mobile device as well. Remove excessive information from pages. Limit the use of tables and scrolling so that it's not going on forever. And then work on increasing the site speed, because the faster the site speed is, the higher up your search engine ranking goes. And lastly, we're going to talk about meeting market demand. And this specifically is going to focus on how will you make it easy for your customer to find you online. There's two main sections for this. And David, if you'd like, you could take these over.
Sure. So we're going to mostly talk about SEO. And SEO is search engine optimization, and that translates to how do I make sure if someone is looking for my product or something related to it, that I am the first option or one of the first options that results on Google when they do the search. And there's two sides of it, the on-page SEO and the off-page SEO. And just trying to simplify something that is sometimes communicated in a very complex way. The on-page SEO element is really about kind of the technical infrastructure on the back end. So it is how fast is the page loading, what is the layout of the pages, how do you navigate between them, how easy is it for Google to actually read what's on the page. And going into each of those factors has some pretty simple things you can do yourself and some more technical elements you might need support on actually executing. But the concept is, does it work for Google? Can they understand what's on the page? And is it quickly loading up? And those are kind of the most important factors to think about. On the other side is content. What is actually shown on the page itself? And it should be content that's very useful to the reader. They're going to that page for a certain reason. They were doing a search to solve a problem or look for a certain kind of product. So the content needs to relate to that. It needs to be relevant to that search. So you're going to use keywords, but you're going to use it in a natural way rather than forcing them into the content. And it needs to have imagery that is actually useful to the context of what is there. How can you visually represent what is on the page? And the clearer you can communicate in that sense, the better. Let's go over to the next slide. I just want to give you a high overview of these different elements. There's a lot of tactics you can put into play. So for off-page SEO, now it's not about your website, but the other websites out in the world that are going to point over to yours and say, they're a legitimate source for this kind of product or this kind of need. And this is essentially just like you're being endorsed by someone else. It's always nice to have a referral. It's always an easier way to get business if someone refers you. Likewise, this is just the digital form of that. Other websites referring over to yours. So this could be suppliers that you work with that direct customers, the actual end customers over to you. It could be social media websites, whether that's your own or other people talking about your website. Any directories that are out there where your business is listed. Google Maps is an obvious one for one example, but there's a lot of directories out there like manta.com and so on. And also when you're producing content for others, and within that content, at some point, you mention your own website. So if you're writing a blog, you're educating the market on a certain topic and you post it out through a local newspaper or an industry publication or just so-and-so's blog on the topic, that helps Google see that there's more websites referring to you, so your credibility in this space must be higher, and so you're ranked higher accordingly. So a lot of this really comes down to, is it a good experience for the user, and is it also clear to Google that we are legitimate and we're doing things in a legitimate way?
All right, so let's review the main takeaways of today. The first is that you're going to want to choose an e-commerce platform that is best for your business. And the best way to do that is to, think about the different types of platforms they are, research the available options out there, and discover which one's best for your business. Then you need to understand your customer's journey from from discovering your brand to conversion. Think about how you're going to map out your context, your site content with the UX design concept that we talked about, and incorporate SEO tactics in order to reach your audience. And that brings us to any questions.
So I want to encourage all participants to use the Q&A for questions. We do have a few more minutes, and I'll continue to watch that. We've resolved quite a number of them, so we're in pretty good shape. So maybe while I'm looking at questions, Taylor, you could cover the next 2 slides, including the customer journey template, which I think is a great, simple tool.
Sure. So like I said, we're going to make that customer journey map available to everyone who is part of this presentation today. And it's really about being able to understand how your customer discovers your business, what makes them consider purchasing from you, where their friction points are in continuing on with your brand, and what drives them to conversion. So our goal at KSA right now is to really help as many small businesses as we can make it through this really trying time. We know that there's a lot of stress on a lot of small businesses. And so we're trying to offer our expertise to be able to help those that need it. So the more of us that come out of this okay, the better off our economy will be here in Rhode Island. So that's what we're really focused on. So you can always feel free to reach out to me at taylor@teamksa.com if you have any questions at all. You can also reach out. Katie is our founder. You can reach out to her at katie@teamksa.com as well. Or you can visit us at teamksa.com/hire us, and you can schedule a strategy session.
Thank you, Taylor. This is the question that I get often. And it is whether you try to fix something that's maybe not the best, or I'll use this person's term, crappy. Should you start over, or should you try to fix what is there?
That's a really good question. It depends how broken it is. It depends on the technology being used. And it depends on how much time you're willing to invest in making it better. So for instance, if you have your website on WordPress and you had a developer that you were working with, and now you no longer have a developer that you're working with, in order to improve your site, you're going to have to learn WordPress, which can be a little bit difficult. So it depends how much time you want to invest into it. Sometimes you can make some changes to your website that you might think your website's not doing great, and just a couple little tweaks will make it a lot better. So it really depends business to business.
Thank you, Taylor. This is a question maybe I'll take a short stab at and then hand it off to the 2 of you. because we started with e-commerce platforms, most of the discussion seemed a little oriented around product companies. But maybe, I'm a services company, and what I can say is these principles about sort of getting the customer, understanding the customer journey, having a means of getting them through online and social media, so many things apply equally, whether you're a services organization or a product organization. And the key is really to be able to stand out, to know what your value proposition is, to be able to create a good strategy online and social media strategy, and then take into account some of these fundamentals that Taylor and David have been talking about. You're not going to transact in the same way, but in fact, you are going to transact in the sense that you want them to call you. So I might just suggest you look at this slide because Taylor's organization is a services organization, and this is a call to action, a website that basically has a special way to draw you into what it is they do, what it is they do exceptionally well, and click on teamksa.com, hire us. So a lot of these fundamentals do apply in services organizations as well. Any other thoughts or comments, Taylor or Brad or David?
I like Brad. Yeah, I think it depends on the business model, but when it comes to services, it is laying out there clearly, this is how we work together, making sure that they know every step of the process and what to expect beyond just, send a contact form in. But like Taylor said, for KSA, it's schedule a strategy session. So you know that there's a real session planned ahead. Just make it as clear as possible. And if you're doing services, there's, I know you had mentioned, I think, lessons. So if it is a structured curriculum, there's online course platforms out there, learning management systems, but likewise, you can also just set up a Zoom call and charge someone for the hour and conduct it that way, if it's interactive and one-on-one based like that. So you just have to think about what's going to be a smooth fit, but it might even adjust your business model a bit as well.
And in thinking about the way you're going to lay out your content on your website, I think there is an emphasis with service-based businesses on building trust as well. So how are you going to build that trust? Are you going to have customer reviews that do it? Do you have an established history that you can draw on and inform your customer about? So that becomes a larger piece of the puzzle. And sometimes you see a little bit more brand identity on the homepage than you do added value content.
Great. Taylor, maybe if you could just advance to the next slide. This is
Sure.
a good time, since we are out of time, to say thank you. It's just incredible to have folks like Taylor and David, who we're now going to call Brad, to help us. They've both been tremendous advocates for small businesses in our community, and so is SCORE. SCORE is I think an incredible asset in the community, and so I encourage you to get a little bit more in depth and one-on-one discussion on marketing or any of these topics. Please go to ri.score.org, request a mentor. Our mentors have access to a number of people throughout the community who I think are really at the front in trying to help make small businesses successful. At the end of the day, that's our common objective. We have recorded this webinar. It is going to be posted on the SCORE website. It will be available also through our partners. So please look for that. We will also be working with our administrative teams to look at what part of this content can actually be available in terms of slide format, because so much of the depth of this is really the talking points, if you will, from the subject matter experts. I'd encourage you to kind of reconsult the recording. which you can share with others as well. So invite you to do that. Thank you again for your participation. We are going to be conducting additional marketing focused webinars in the coming weeks. So please look for those. And as you have questions in managing your businesses, hopefully whether it is a SCORE resource or either of our subject matter experts here, you have a path to them and can get the help and support you need. So with that, good day, everyone, and thank you again for your time and patience. Bye-bye.